Right, welcome back to part 11. This is definitely part 11, and I've got all confused on my last one's what part we're on, but yeah, definitely part 11. Excuse me. Right, so I'm just recovering from I've been ill for a week or two with a cough that won't go away, which is totally irrelevant as to anything we're doing now, but I thought I'd share that with you. It's now, as we can see down here, look, it is the 1st of March 2018. Now, if you're watching this video in like 2 years' time, this will be totally irrelevant to you, but yeah, 1st of March. So, first of all, how the hell did that happen? I'm sure it was only Christmas like last week, but anyway. And yeah, you get into March in the UK, and normally you start to think it's, spring's on the way. Oh, not this year. We're under like 3 foot of snow at the moment. So big shout out to Russia. Thanks for sending your weather over to us, because apparently this has all come over to you. So anybody watching in Russia, thanks for that. So yeah, I don't mind admitting I'm sitting in my studio doing this. I got the heating blasting out, as you can probably hear in the background. I'm sitting here with my slippers on. It's all very rock and roll, and yeah, I've already wasted a minute of this video jabbering on about weather and other nonsense. So let's crack on. So what we're doing? We're doing electronic music production with Ableton Live. So part 11 is we're going to look at MIDI clips again, but this time specifically we're going to focus on drums and the drum rack, which is quite a powerful part of Ableton. Or Ableton Live, I should call it, because it annoys me when people call it Ableton, because actually it's called Live. Ableton are the people who make it. Right, I'm proper ranting today, aren't I? I'm just talking about absolute rubbish. Right, so shut up and get on with it. So, drums, yeah. Obviously, drums are a massive part of any track, whatever style of music you're playing. Obviously, assuming the style of music you're playing has drums in it. If it's just like classical music and strings, then obviously the drums aren't an important part of that. But we're doing electronic music, so yeah, unless we're doing kind of like total ambient chill out stuff, we're not going to really have many drums in it on that kind of thing. But obviously for anything else we are. Right, what's wrong with me today? I can't stop talking. Right, so drum rack. If we just put a blank drum rack in, or if we put the drum rack in, okay, you can see it's empty. Right, so we get this rack with 16 slots in it, and these are the MIDI notes that will trigger these slots as and when we put some sounds in it. So any of these slots can contain samples and also effects. So there's a lot of stuff we can do with drum racks. And yeah, link to a MIDI note. So if we look over here, that's actually this black square here. You can see this is this bank here. So we can fill all of these, okay, with different samples. So we can have up to 128. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We've got 8 different slots of 16, which can give us up to 128 different sounds, which should be enough for anybody's drum part, surely. So let's just we'll put a rack in that's got some sounds on it. So if we look in the drums folder, I've got quite a lot in here. I've got the Live 9 Suite, so I've got a lot in here. So yours might look different to this depending on which version you're using. But really, any of these that say kit at the end will have a drum kit with loads of sounds in it. And obviously, you can click on it and kind of audition the sounds and so on.
The sounds, the pounds. It's like mind.
Yeah, that's not drums.
The mind is the sound.
Right, shut up. So we're going to go with the classic 808 kit. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to drag and drop that into the rack, and it will load it in. It will populate all these slots with our drum sounds. So you can see we've got kick and rim and so on in there. So if we arm the track, so we can hear it, and make sure your little keyboard thing on here is activated, because we're going to play this from the computer keyboard. Now, obviously, if you're using a controller, particularly something like push, your drum racks are really easy to use because you get it all on a nice display on push. But I'm kind of assuming that we've not all got push, and you might need to be doing this from your computer keyboard. Now, if I play on my keyboard at the moment, which I'm doing, which obviously you can't see me doing, but hopefully you will believe me I'm doing it. Actually, you can prove I'm doing it, because if you look here, we're getting MIDI notes, but we're not actually hearing anything because I'm on the wrong octave. Okay, so I'm not sure which octave I'm on. So if you can remember, before we put this in here, I think it starts on C1 down here. Now at the moment, the octave I was on we're on C2 to D3. So I need to go down, so that's C1 to C2. So remember, the shortcut for that, which I've covered in previous videos, is the Z button on your computer keyboard will take you down an octave, and the X button will take you up. So if we go down to Z, okay, I'm now pressing the A button on my keyboard, and as I go along, okay, we can play the drum sounds from the keyboard, which is pretty cool. Obviously, if you've got another controller, you've just got to make sure you're sending the right MIDI note to get the sounds out of it. Right, so we've covered all of that. So yeah, basically, as we said, the drum rack is a container. Okay, so it can have sounds, MIDI instruments, effects, and so on in there. So if we click on each slot, you'll see over here things change. Okay, depending on what we've got selected, and that's basically we've got a device for each of these. So this is the device for the kick drum, which is, I think, a version of simpler. So again, it depends on the instrument that you're using. The buttons on the far left here, we can hide and show different parts of each device. So at the moment we're seeing the kick device, so we've got the controls for the kick over here, and we can see it's got some stuff on compressor and the EQ, which is all built into this device. If you close that down, we don't see the device anymore, we just see the rack. So the top one, oh hello, sorry. Sorry, I just pressed the key on one of his synths. Oh hello, I was like, there we go. Right, sorry, I had to do that again. I'm in a very silly mood today, as you can tell for some reason. Okay, the top button will show and hide what are called the macro knobs. Now, these are really useful if you want to map multiple parameters to one dial, which you can then map to a MIDI controller. So if we wanted to have like the volume, the EQ, and a filter, and a reverb, or whatever, are all controlled by one dial that's all going to change, we can map it to that, which we'll look at some stage in later lessons. Let's just hide that down. The middle button will show us the chain list. Okay, so this is basically showing us all the different parts we've got in our drum rack. The chain kind of can be used as a little internal mixer, because you can see you've got your volumes here for all the drums. Okay, so we can, you know, if we need to balance up the volume, so we've got volume, we've got pan, we can solo each section of the instrument as well. We've got the the hot swap thing here if we want to change the sound. We can route the audio to different places, and these are the MIDI notes that we are that it's on. So if you want to change the MIDI note, you can change it in there, which is quite useful as well. You can also, if I go over to this view, you can also kind of get that little mixer on here as well. So if you look on the kit here, we've got this drop down arrow. If we click on that, okay, and then we've got kind of like an internal mixer for everything that's in that drum rack, which again is very useful for mixing your drum parts. Okay, because again you can pan everything, and it just enables you to separate everything out rather than having to have a separate track for everything, which yeah, is very, very useful. You don't get that on this view. It's only on the session view, not the arrangement view. But when I'm mixing, I tend to always mix on this view anyway, because it's a bit more like a traditional mixer. Right, so I was going to hide these down for now. Well, in fact, we don't need any of them. We'll just keep that. So let's just have a go at creating a simple drum beat. Now, depending on the kind of music you're doing, if you're doing electronic music, often you want the drums to sound like they are being played by a machine. So if you want that kind of feel, then leave all your velocities, all your volumes all at the same level, and it kind of sounds very machine-like. If you want it to make it sound a little bit more like a human drummer would play, we want to sort of alter the velocities a bit. So I'm going to show you how to do that, because obviously doing it with the same velocities is pretty straightforward. I am a drummer. That's my main kind of line of work, is as a drummer, as well as doing all this kind of stuff. So obviously I know from my point of view, and when I've recorded drum parts in the past, and any drummer that you listen to, every time you hit the drum, it's not going to be exactly the same volume. It's going to vary slightly. So that's how we can give our drum parts a more human feel. Okay, so enough talking about all that stuff. Let's actually get some drum beats going. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to create a MIDI clip. You've got to make sure that your MIDI from is set correctly. I'm just taking my MIDI from my computer keyboard. Obviously, if you've got a MIDI controller, you would choose it from there. So if I was doing it from, you know, one of these, I would choose that. You can also do all-ins, but I've got my MIDI stuff kind of starts when I start playing on here. It's synchronized up and it starts my gear playing, and we get loads of weird stuff coming in. So I'm just having that set to MIDI in. Got to make sure that the this is activated up here. So as I now play on my computer keyboard, we will hear the sounds coming through. Now, if I start that playing, okay, obviously we're not going to hear anything because we've not got any sounds in here at the moment. I'm going to play it with the metronome. And then what we're going to do is we're going to use this button, the session record button, because this enables us to sort of practice what we want to play. So for like something like that, all we've got to do is then hit that button without stopping and starting anything, and it will record it for us. Now, to make that even easier, what we could do is map that button to either a Midi controller or something on the computer keyboard. So I'm going to map it to the computer keyboard. In fact, I've already got it mapped, so I'm going to just get rid of that for now. So to do that, we would just turn on the key mapping here. We'd click on that, and I'm going to map it to the number 1 button on my computer keyboard. So now when I press that, number 1, you can see it starts it recording, okay, which we don't want to do just yet. If I just deleted that, yes, I have. What an idiot. Right, let's just map that again. Okay, so if we start this playing, and then I will practice what I'm going to do, play, and then I'll hit the number 1 key and we'll record it. So here we go. Okay. Okay, so as we can see, the notes now appear in here. So yeah, as I was doing that, I practiced it through a few times. As soon as I was ready, all I did was hit 1 on my computer keyboard and it instantly starts recording it. Now, the timing might be a little bit off. Don't worry about that. We can fix that later, and we're going to look at that in a later session. As you can see, I kind of started, this kick here should actually start here on the first beat because I started a little bit earlier. And again, it's down to kind of like the latency and stuff you've got on your controller, but that's fine. I'm not too worried about the timing at the moment. It's sort of, you know, it kind of sounds a bit out, but not to worry. So if we drag up from this bottom section now, these are our velocities. Okay, so let's make these a little bit bigger so we can see it. So as you can see, the velocity is exactly the same for every note because our computer keyboard doesn't send velocity information. If you are doing it from a MIDI controller, again, something like push, that will pick up velocity depending on how hard you hit the pad. So that's quite a good way of doing drums from there. So if we just play it again and I drop the volume down, say on this kick, you'll hear that one. Oh, no, sorry. Got to make sure just that one is selected. Drag it down. Okay, hopefully you can hear that that is quieter than the others. If I turn this one up, okay. Not got a massive difference in volume, but I'll do it on the snare drum because you can hear it a little bit easier on those. But if you notice the colour of the notes, they change. They get lighter the quieter the note is. So you can see it's right up, it's red, and then if you drag it down, it kind of goes to white when it's at its quietest point. That does not actually. I'm going to just put that in again because that's not actually doing what I want it to do. Okay, it's a little bit different in volume. Let's try snare drum. Let's turn that one right down. Okay, so yeah, you can hear that one a lot more. I don't know why the kick's not going as quiet as it should, but okay, so we can hear that that one is a lot quieter. So what we could do is sort of record another part at different velocity. So I'm going to leave all of these, right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to select all of these, I'm going to put all of these up at full, and then we'll record some extra snare drum hits at a lower velocity. So the C and the V buttons on your computer keyboard will change the velocity. Okay, so if I press the C, you can see here it's telling you that you are currently playing with the velocity at 60. I'm pressing C, if I press C again, it goes down to 40. Okay, and that'll go right up to 127, which is the highest. So I'm going to play what I call ghost notes, some quiet notes on the snare drum. So I'm going to take these right down to like 20, so they're really, really quiet. Okay, so there's our pattern going. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just add some extra snare drum hits in there. Right, so I'm pressing number 1 now, so session record is on. Oh, no, it's not recorded. Okay, so I mean the timing is shocking, it's all out, but you can see we've now recorded these extra snare drum hits at a lower velocity. Okay, and as I said before, the notes, you can see instantly which notes are quieter and louder by the colour on here, because they will change depending on the velocity. And obviously we can change individual notes by as we looked at before. So if you want to just drop that one down a little bit, so you can go through your drum patterns and sort of change each one one at a time if you so desire. We can also make crescendos this way as well. If I just put in like a load of snare drum hits, I will show you a quick way of doing a crescendo. I'm just going to get rid of those bass drums for now. So crescendo is where it gets gradually louder. Now I could kind of do these one at a time like that, which is a bit of a pain. So we don't want to do that. Easy way of doing it is with the draw tool. So if I'm just going to take these all the way down to 0, if we get the draw tool, and then what we're going to do is I'm just going to start on that first bit, and then I'm going to just gradually make them louder. So all I'm doing is clicking and dragging from left to right and then going up. And as we play that now, we should hear those snare drums getting gradually louder. Okay, so again, great way of making a crescendo to make your notes get gradually louder. So that's pretty much all I'm going to cover on this video for now. What we're going to look at in the next part, we'll look at creating a drum beat by drawing the parts in, which is kind of makes it easier for getting your timing right. And we'll also look at how to tidy up timing as well, and so on in future lessons. But I just wanted to sort of cover that for now and look at the session record button, which is quite a useful way of putting notes in, and obviously just giving a quick introduction to drum racks. Just one final thing, any of these you can just sort of drag and drop things in. We'll probably look at drum racks in more detail later on, but if I just find some samples, let's just find a kick. So if I just get that clip playing, so let's say I don't like that snare drum. Let's do a snare actually, because we've not got any kick in there. And I want to use, I don't know, that snare. It's a bit weird. But all I would do is drag it and drop it into that block. Okay, so you can instantly. Okay, that one doesn't like that one. But you can then start to audition your sounds just by dragging and dropping them in there like that. So that's one way of doing that. Okay, hopefully that was of some use. And like I say, there's a lot more coming up. Oh no, sorry, I've hit that computer. I've hit that key again. Yeah, there's a lot more coming up. Obviously, more detail on quantizing and making drum beats and so on. But that's hopefully just covered a simple way of, if you've got a beat in your head that you want to record, you might not necessarily know, on here. This is one of the reasons why you might want to just play it in. So let me just, I know I keep saying I'm finished, but I'm not. So let's say you've got a pattern that you want to play. Hold on, I've got that weird snare drum in there, haven't I? Let's just take that back. Okay, so let's say you've got a pattern like this that you want to record. So you've got this drum pattern in your head. Okay, something like that. You might not know, if you're not up on which notes falls where, how you would actually draw that in and program that in. So obviously what you would need to do then is record it. So you'd practice it. Get the metronome on. Okay, you can then start to put that in, and you can sort of see then where the notes would fit in, and then you can tidy up your timing afterwards. Okay, so we're going to leave that there on this one. It's a little bit longer than I was expecting, but whatever, it doesn't matter. Thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe. If you've got any questions or comments, please stick them in the box below. Check out my music on Spotify, because that just helps me keep on my channel going. And I'll see you in part 12. Thanks again for watching. See you soon.